folks. Welcome to our first global. Well, folks, welcome to our first global town hall diaspora meeting. We are saying it as a global diaspora meeting is because the Guyanese community is so diverse, and for us to connect with the Guyanese community effectively, we have to use all social media. Today, we are actually having one confirmed guest that is with us here, and that is Ryan. So, as the moderator, I will actually play a very small role. I'll let the speakers. So, Sis, if you can introduce yourself briefly and tell us a little bit of yourself for 2 minutes, and then we will ask the audience to give you some questions.
Um, Good afternoon, everybody. Happy New Year's to those who I haven't had a chance to speak with. I don't think I need much of an introduction, but I am basically an accountant by training with a finance degree, and I've worked in international development for most of my life. Um, and I have an avid interest. I'm a columnist in Guyana, but I have an avid interest in the civic affairs of Guyana. I took part in an election cycle once as a candidate in 2011 as part of the Alliance for Change team in 2011. I've since resigned from that party in 2014, long before the no confidence, not the no confidence, the coalition, because I thought that they were moving away from the core principles that we were talking about. But that's me. That's basically me. Yep.
Well, Says, thank you again very much for that brief introduction. And now, the company that is actually doing the transmission of this broadcast is Globespan, and they have been very supportive, and they have a video that they want to show you at this point.
So clearly, people are unhappy with the direction clearly our country is people are in. Unhappy with the direction they're unhappy our country is policies in practice by this government. They're unhappy. The party leadership policies practice by decided. The party leadership just submitted a no confidence motion, and have just submitted a no confidence.
Their numbers in the parliament didn't change. They still have 32 seats. Their numbers in the parliament didn't change. And for a no confidence motion still have 32 seats. You need at least and for a no confidence motion to succeed, you need at least 33 seats by an opposition, by the PPP, by Mr. Jagdeo, and come by an opposition, by the PPP, by Mr. Jagdeo, results of the local government elections, and also based because they didn't results of the local government elections, and also majority because they didn't have it. So the majority are saying, okay, we are tabling the motion, so hoping that one member of the we are tabling the motion, hoping that one member of the opposition, it is too serious a matter. You can't for you to want to remove a government. It is too serious a matter. Guesswork. For you to want to remove a government only on guesswork.
Mr. C. Persaud, Mr. Rajkumar, Mr. Figueroa, Mr. C. Persaud. Yes.
take our statement. I'm PNC, my friends are PNC. You take our statement. And then what did Trotman do? My friends are PNC. I wrote him and said we have to make a statement. And then what did Trotman do? As leader of the AFC, and said we have to make a statement. Defended Paula Lawrence for having said, the AFC, he defended Paula Lawrence for having said, what did Paula Lawrence do? She apologized for having said something she should not. What did Paula Lawrence do? She apologized for having said something she should not have said. And I'm taking all of that as a member of the AFC because we have to say. And I'm taking all of that as a member that I have to say. Because we have to say it according to my conscience. This is the one time that I have to say AFC people, according to my conscience. My friend, I'm not the AFC people. The AFC team has disappointed me, any of you, terribly. The AFC team has disappointed me, put them in power, terribly to run around and live that the good life, put them in power, mess with so that they can run around and live that the good life. In a village at the district that I live, you destroy the lives of sugar workers. And in a village at the district that I live, people may not be happy with what I've done. And so if I die now, I will die a happy person. People may not be happy with what I've done. I will die a happy person. I'll have a clear conscience.
The threshold the Constitution would not have been arrived at. We feel, notwithstanding what happened in the 21st, arrived at. The number, notwithstanding what happened in the 21st, that the threshold of elected parliamentarians who will constitute that threshold of elected parliamentarians, that it must be half the number of elected members is that plus must be one. Half the number of elected members. And if it leads to a fraction, that fraction plus must be one up. And if it leads to a fraction, that whole figure must be when we do the calculation towards another whole figure, 32.5. When we do the calculation plus 1 is 33.5. It is 32.5. And then because of the 0.5, plus 1 is 33.5. The next whole number. And then because of the 0.5, that must go into the next whole number. And it brings
cause us to look outside the issues which we now face to find answers. Cause us to look outside of Parliament to find answers.
This legal remedy could take forever, that it could take maybe a year.
The government of Guyana and the opposition in the National Assembly met today, Wednesday, the 9th of January, to examine two main issues. The first is, of course, the functioning of the National Assembly, and the second is the functioning of the government. Neither of these two important institutions, the legislative branch and the executive branch, could be allowed to fail. Public services have to be delivered, public order has to be maintained, and therefore the two sides reached broad agreement on how these two institutions, the legislative branch and the executive branch, would continue to function. The second important issue which was discussed was general and regional elections. As you know, the government has had legal recourse to the courts in order to determine the validity of the vote in the National Assembly on the 21st of December. This is quite legitimate, and there is no intention on the part of the government to derail the constitutional or legislative process. We have agreed that the two sides will continue to work together to engage GCOM to ensure that elections are held within the administrative capabilities of the Guyana Elections Commission. I would say, in conclusion, that we've had a successful engagement. Both the leader of the opposition and the president are concerned about the situation. We would like to show the public in Guyana that we are working to a solution which they will be satisfied with. The public interest is our paramount concern. Thank you.
That we are committed to the Constitution, we're committed to the rule of law. The government is the government. The government remains as the central authority, and that the government will ensure that the laws of this country are respected. There are matters which have been placed in the domain of the court.
Okay, folks, we are back live on stream. That video actually captures basically where Guyana is. But we have actually also been asking quite a few people to add their input so that we have a clearer understanding of what is happening. Very shortly, we will have Charrandas joining us live. And also, we had confirmation from a few of our ministers in the government, but for some reason, Minister Kemarat Ramjatan had a conflict, and last minute, Aubrey Norton pulled out because he had also some conflict. We will be joining somewhere around 2 o'clock by Rickford Burke, and hopefully, we will also get Anil Nandalal, who will be joining us shortly. Now, whilst we're doing this, I just read in the local press today that the meeting that was supposed to be taking place with GCOM has been hit a snag, in that the CEO have actually indicated to Amna Ali when she went and set up a meeting that she would need to have a conversation or communicate with the chairman. So, as you're aware, the chairman is on sick leave. So, we don't know where that is going, and we're hoping that some of the members of the panel can guide us. Sis, would you like to take a shot at that, sir?
I think I want to answer your question, but I want to take a different approach to it. So basically, I really want, the public to really understand the issue before we actually start recommending directions. And it's very, very important that all Guyana understand the issue, because this is a unique time. It's the first time it's happened in our country. There was a threat of a no confidence before, but it didn't happen. On December 21st, 2018, the majority of members of parliament, all sitting elected members of parliament, made a decision, and that decision was ratified, acknowledged, accepted, and approved by the speaker. And that decision was basically the passage of a no confidence motion against the sitting government. The lawyers like Nandalal and so forth and Ramjatan, they will tell you what that means. But for a layman like me, for me, it speaks directly to Article 106.6, which specifically says the cabinet, including the president, shall resign if the government is defeated by the vote of the majority of all elected members. Let's focus on that. All 65 elected members of the National Assembly on this vote of no confidence. So that happened. So once that happened, it kicked off a roadmap to the future. So to seek guidance, again, every nation, every society is managed by a framework, and that framework is usually a constitution, a book of laws, of higher laws, so to speak, that you live by, you abide by. And the Constitution says that. This is exactly what it says. And for those of you who wants to follow on to 106.7, it says, notwithstanding its defeat, meaning Mr. Granger's government, the government shall remain in office and shall hold an elections within 3 months. And I'll pause there before I continue quoting. Within 3 months. 3 months from December 21st means March 21st, 2018. Continuing with my quotation, or such longer period as the National Assembly shall, by resolution supported by no less than 2/3 of the votes of all elected 65, all 65 again, right, of the National Assembly, and shall resign after the new president takes the oath of office following that elections. So nobody, right now, it's a period where, what Christopher Ram said, conventional caretaker mode. So basically, this is the period. The government is legitimate at this point in time. Nobody should advise you any otherwise. But there's a convention that says for this 90 days, this 3 months, they're in a caretaker mode, conventionally caretaker mode. So they do the routine things. They pay people's salaries. They make sure that those projects that were signed are ongoing. Let's take, for example, the airport contract for the expansion of the airport. You can't stop the contract. So the government continues paying the progress payments for those activities to continue. What you do not do in this 90-day period is commit the state to new debt. You do not commit the state to new contracts. You do not commit the state to new financial obligations that are already not signed. So any future government does have the right to not respect and acknowledge any new contracts that are signed from now onwards until the newly elected government is in place. So I'm making a public note to all contractors, all businessmen, everyone who does business with the government of Guyana. Any contract you sign from today, well, from December 21st, going forward until the new government is in place, can be disputed and may be disputed and may not be paid. So if you have any good sense, you will stay away from doing new contractual agreements with the government. So that is basically the background to the entire thing. So what has happened since then? The president took 18 days to meet the leader of the opposition on this matter of national importance. 18 days, which is quite a long period of time for something of this, think about it. If there's a war in Syria and President Trump just says, well, I got to go down to Mar-a-Lago for 18 days and I'll come back and we'll make decisions on this matter 18 days from now. That is how ludicrous it was. 18 days went by. And even if he's unavailable because he's on medical leave, he could have appointed a plenipotentiary, what we call a high officer, to continue those conversations with the leader of opposition. Because at this point in time, what is needed is maturity. And what is maturity? Conversations so that progress can be made. So 18 days went by, they had a meeting, and they basically, as an outcome of that meeting, even though everybody's trying to act maturely, for me as a layman, the only thing that came out of that meeting is one thing, which was the two chief whips were authorized to write to GCOM and meet GCOM. They have so done. Ms. Amna Ali, thank you very much to her, and Ms. Gail Teixeira, thank you very much to her also. So they've so done, and the chief elections officer of GCOM has quite bluntly told them, I would love to meet you guys, but I can't meet you guys unless my boss authorizes me to meet you guys. So where is the boss? The boss is the chairman of the Guyana Elections Commission. He's missing in action too. He's on sick leave, extended sick leave. And so it seems like the whole administration is in a sick mode. They're on a go slow. They're sicking on themselves, and this is the challenge. When you're in government, you lead. The role of an opposition is to oppose, expose, and depose. The role of a government is to act, do, progress, move things forward. In this case, what I'm seeing is the government now is opposing itself and really stalling on itself. And it's making the whole national conversation into a joke, a national joke. And this is very, very key and critical, that this government stop behaving that immature. They need to man up. The reality is, a decision was made by you, by the majority of the members of parliament. Accept your fate, put yourselves in the hands of the people, because they are the supreme authority of any country, and let the people decide what they want. It's their country. It's not my country exclusively, or Vishnu's country exclusively. Guyana is a land of minorities. There's no majority in Guyana anymore. And hence, we have to work together. And that is why in a letter that I did today to the press, I quoted from the Roman Catholic Bishop of Georgetown. And basically, I'm saying to people, let's get the conversation going. Let's talk. This is what is needed right now. There are many, many risks. And the biggest risk I see at this point in time is, one, this stalling is actually going to put the government after March 21st into illegitimacy unless 2/3 of the National Assembly decides to extend their legitimacy. Now, if they go into illegitimacy, guess what can happen? One, the international loan agencies will not want to do business with them. Any right-thinking businessman who's transparent and accountable and want to do clean, solid, big business will not want to do business with an illegitimate government. This is, so the big risk is also GCOM. GCOM will need a framework to deliver on its elections. Fortunately for GCOM, they've just come out of a local government elections, which meant the machinery worked. It functioned in the main population center of Guyana. So the machine has proven itself that it works. So it just needs tinkering and some level of expansion into the interior, and it will be ready. So they don't need a long time. But GCOM is so anemic on its communication, that they have not even prescribed to the nation, well, what is their roadmap? I mean, I find it as irresponsible and bordering on professional delinquency when a big organization that is funded by the people of Guyana fails to account to the people of Guyana by not telling them, guys, you pay my bills, so here is what is going on. This is our roadmap. We can deliver elections in X amount of time, and let the conversation flow from there. But by behaving this way, they're basically saying, I want your money, but I am not I'm not accountable to you.
As we promised the audience that this will be an interactive session, so I would like to take some time out to ask members of the live audience that we have here in Richmond Hill. I have one of the men that is very deeply involved in the trench in Guyana, Mr. Ramayana. And I would like to ask Mr. Ramayana if you have a question you want to pose to Mr. Says or for future panel members.
Says, first of all, we had a budget of 2019, and you were talking about contractors. How they will execute the...
Can you speak up, Doc?
Before the no confidence motion was passed, we had the 2019 budget. And you have not touched the budget about people who already they have in mind to give contracts to. What happened to the country? Will it be still at the regional level of the 2019 budget? And number two, we discussed that 2 weeks ago when you were here. This was expected of GCOM. So this is not anything strange to us here or the people of Guyana. Now, I listened to Camarade, and personally, with the vendetta that I have against what he was saying, Remember 2011 elections, you were there. But when they voted 33-32 for the no confidence, can this president, presently now, prorogue the parliament what Donald Ramotar did to buy more time?
Let me just make it clear. Yes. First of all, the Constitution does prescribe a way in regards to proroguement, but I would leave that for Mr. Nandalal, who has talked extensively on it when he comes on. But I want to talk about the budget, which is my forte. The budget is passed, and that's fine. I mean, it's a good thing that the budget has been passed. I'm not actually against the budget passing because a nation needs to be having some stability. The budget is constituted of two parts, the current budget and the capital budget. The current budget is basically your routine maintenance issue. That the government does have the power to start spending. You got to pay people their salary. You got to, do the routine maintenance of buildings, vehicles, social programs, paying people their old age pension. All those things got to be sorted out and continue. Whether you have a full government, a caretaker government, or whatever kind of government, those things have to continue. The point where I made very, very clear is new contracts with regards to new capital works, meaning you cannot be committing the country to a long-term multi-year program when you don't know if you will be there after the next round of elections. This is the maintenance mode. That is what it's basically saying. And I mean, things like national emergency, the seawalls and stuff, those things got to be done. You're not going to stop doing those things. But to go commit to, let's say, the Demerara Harbor Bridge, the new Demerara Harbor Bridge, can be deemed illegal. And those contractors, wherever they come from, may not get paid if they commit themselves to building that project. And they can go to court. They will not win because it's loud and clear. The Constitution has spoken exactly the modality of how the government should function between now and March 21st. Now, what I believe is a three-prong approach should be happening. One is that both parties, both the government and the opposition, should be meeting with civil society and ensuring that GCOM does its work, but at the same time mapping out the roadmap on how we can achieve what the Constitution instructs us to achieve. You see, this is not about PNC or PPP or government or opposition. This is about adhering to our sacred document, the high laws, we call it, the Constitution. We can't be, mismanaging that.
Well, Sis, I must say thank you very much for that. I also would like to ask one of our...
Hold on one second while we bring on Mr. Charrandas Persaud.
Wow, we will have to wait for that guy. Whilst we're holding for that technical hookup, I would like each of you to have some sort of questions formulated. So if I call upon you, you will actually have the opportunity of expressing yourself. But try not to make it a speech.
Hello, good afternoon. Hello?
Yes, sir, you're live.
Oh.
Okay, Mr. Charrandas, you're live with an audience about here in New York, and you're free to introduce yourself. Give us a little bit background of who you are for those who are not familiar with you.
All right. Well, hi, everybody. Good afternoon. My name, some of you know the name, Charrandas Persaud, former member of the Guyana National Assembly Parliament as an AFC candidate. I am also a lawyer, practicing lawyer in Guyana, and I'm saying I'm, even though I'm in Canada, and my practice is still there. I'm the guy who voted, as they will say, against the government, but in favor of a vote of no confidence. That's what I did. I voted in favor of a vote of no confidence, which, of course, is against the government. We can't deny that, and that's how it went. I don't know. Are we going to go through this on a question and answer basis there, gentlemen, or do you want me to say, do you have to tell me what to do here?
Well, we will actually solicit some questions from the audience, and those of you who are live on Facebook and on YouTube, we will encourage you to post your questions so we can actually give you an opportunity to have your questions aired. We have here with us here Professor Dan Paul Narain. He is also a very much involved in the media here in New York. So I'd like to ask Dr. Dan Paul if he could formulate a question for the panel.
Oh, Dr. Dan Paul is there.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Charrandas. We met when you were here the last time, if you remember, 2 weeks ago.
Yes, thank you. I know who you are for sure.
Right. Okay. Says in his remarks just now, said, and I quote, that no party has a majority. A majority is difficult to get now in the future. Words to that effect. Now, what are we not clear about? Suppose in the next election that no party, the PPP, doesn't get that 50%. And the APNU and all these other people combined doesn't get 50%. What happens then?
Well, the system we have in Guyana, it speaks to the party with a plurality, meaning the highest number of votes. So one will get 49% and the other one gets 49.5%. The other one gets 0.5%. The one with the highest number of votes total will form the government, have the president. That's how it's done. It will be a minority government, like during the Donald Ramakar time.
Whilst you're adjusting your volumes, I will ask Says if he also want to add a bit comment to that.
All right,
You're on, Says.
Says, can you check your mic, please?
Oh, thank you. Thank you for that part. I just want to acknowledge Charrandas because in 2011, Charrandas and I campaign in Kanti, his hometown.
Yeah, we did. It
was a fantastic meeting, and those were the good days. But as I said to you guys, I just want to make sure I clarify. I did say parties majority. I said no group constitutes a majority in Guyana. But parties are a combination of many groups. But this is the point. If let's say no party wins the majority, Charnas hits the nail on the head. I don't want to cover ground. But what it also says is that Chinese people got to talk to each other more. We have to. We are not strangers to each other. We grew up in a country where we are one. And irrespective of what some politicians are trying to do, we have to come together. So even if we have to come together from the bottom up, it's critical that this process starts now. And that is why I'm saying it's very important that leadership, the political leadership, talk so that the wrong signals are not sent to the people. Because the Roman Catholic Bishop Francis Allen did say, he said our leaders would do well to acknowledge the extent to which the people, in particular the youths, have lost confidence in the broader political process. And now is the time to grasp that opportunity that is being presented to us to reshape the answer. So that's why resisting democracy by a group is not kosher. It's not good. It reminds a lot of people of the days when Guyana did not have democracy. So it's extremely important. This period is handled maturely, carefully, wisely, and not selfishly. Let's start thinking of the people first. Let's start thinking of Guyana first and stop this selfish kind of attitude.
Well, we will take a question from Mr. Ramayana because he's compelled to ask this question.
Yes. You have to address, I will tell you right now, there is no party in Guyana will come up with 51%. Address the issue of the single plurality and where we go from there. And Charan, your friend Crawford this morning, and Sohan, they come up with a new party as well in Belize. But
they set a party.
So says address the issue. I will tell you there is no party in Guyana will get a majority. So we want to talk about a single plurality, which took place in 2011, and I can see right now the same thing will happen.
That's your belief, or you? I mean, have you done any particular study to make that determination? Because my view on that is totally different, you know.
Let me be very candid, Sharon. And I told Bharat this several times for the past few meetings that we had. There is going to be rigging. And you cannot rule that out. The apparatus is in works, and that is one of the reasons they are buying time.
That we will agree with. The vote of no confidence has cut short their rigging time by a year and a half.
But
there are still plans to rig the election in 2020.
But there are still many persons already registered, non-resident or non-citizen of Guyana, already get birth certificate, so they can register to vote, especially in the interior area. And I was telling Bharat this, and he knows about it now, so he cannot say he doesn't know. But what they are doing now, if you have to get a majority, ask the PPP what they are doing to bring all people on board.
Who will take that question?
Well, I mean, I think you said Anil is going to be here. He's an executive member of the PPP. You can't get higher than that in the PPP. So maybe we could park that question until Anil comes.
Okay. Now, I also have a young man here who is very active in the community. He happens to be wearing an American flag. So, young man, I'd like to ask of you if you could pose your question, please.
Mr. Charrandas?
Yes.
I'm the cousin of Dr. Riyad Rahman, whose security personnel was instrumental in getting you out of Parliament.
Okay, all right, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm the cousin of that guy, that young kid who was with you in Parliament. Security personnel who got you out of Parliament into the
Right,
Caribbean.
on that since you've asked or raised that, you know that the Chronicle published that the people who were with me were known criminals associated with Roger Khan, and one of them was a member of the former death squad.
All
Those are all bullshit, just clean lies.
I can clear that
that
up.
they're coming up with.
I can clear that up for you. Dr. Riyad Rahman studied in England as a qualified doctor and has his practice at Lamaha Street, which you may probably be aware or may not be aware of. But he told me personally, because we communicate daily since the no confidence motion was passed, that he has been receiving death threats almost every day, and he told them that I live on Lamaha Street. When you guys are ready, I'm here. Come. All right? That's number one. Number two, Nazim Bash, the journalist in Toronto, Canada. That's my personal friend. I was instrumental in getting that interview there with you and him. He told me it was a lengthy interview, and it would be aired.
Yeah, with the CBC.
CBC, correct. And he told me that it's going
Yeah.
He told
We
me.
did say yesterday, it will be aired on Tuesday.
He said
the world should look at that.
Yes, he said Monday or Tuesday is going to be aired. Up to yesterday, he spoke to me about it. Yeah. Okay. So I'm just reiterating.
Yeah.
I'm just reiterating my political upbringing or background, so to speak. Anyhow.
All right. Cool.
The question for you is, now that Charrandas has voted yes, where does Charrandas go from here, outside and inside of Guyana?
Well, let me tell you this quickly. To answer that question, Leslie James, the Commissioner of Police, yesterday morning he was grilled, he was drilled, and he was totally embarrassed by reporters who asked a simple question. Mr. James, you're investigating Charrandas Persaud on criminal activity. That is confidential. Why is he a threat to national security? That is confidential. The man had no answer for anything. So what they're looking for is to have the world believe that Charrandas Persaud is involved in something criminal. So anytime he shows up at the borders of Guyana, we will arrest him and keep him locked up until he hands himself in prison. They expect that I'm going to be locked up, and in some sick lockup cells they have, I'm going to hang myself when it will be something that they and their police would be doing or would do. That's what they want. But they have nothing on me. They have nothing. They will continue to look and find nothing. Notice that they've given up on the accepting bribes thing, or that I was paid, because they checked through Scotiabank my account there and the Republic Bank in Guyana, and they found no money. As a matter of fact, they found that I owe on the payment of the same Prado they said I sold. So they've given up on that. We can't prove that. They've also given up on the buying $1 million worth of gold, which is what I was doing for clients. A client of mine wanted to buy gold. I negotiated it. I went to inquire about the price. And that was a whole list of transaction or communication on the WhatsApp that I had with a man named Errol Ross, who is one of the members in the Sidney Ali Cox government or ministry. So what do they want to do? I don't know. They're still looking. Hello?
Yes, well...
Oh, okay, guys.
Having given that information, we are going to actually ask another member of the audience to pose another question, and I would like to ask... Okay, we will ask him that, but let's give someone else another chance, and then we will ask him to restate his position on whether he's going or not. Dr. Tara Singh, would you like to give us your question, please?
Well, yes, Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. Mr. Charrandas, I'd like to ask you a simple question. You said in one of your interviews that you went back to Guyana on a migrant status. And you got whatever facilities were available. You also said you went to University of Guyana as a Guyanese student because you didn't have to pay a foreign student fee. You also said you went to Trinidad to complete your law degree with 24, 25 other Guyanese students. And you
25, yes.
You graduate, you came back, you established your legal practice in Guyana, you have been practicing there. Now, by that, I would take it that the government, Nagamutu, Ranjatan, and the government knew that you had dual citizenship because the very fact you come back on the remigrant. So how is it 3 days after the no confidence motion passed, they just discovered that you're a dual citizenship, you're a dual citizen? That is one. The other thing I'd like to throw to you is that since they want to say your vote is invalid because you're a dual citizen, what happened to all those legislation that was passed, including budgets? What happened? They will invalidate all of them?
My friend, okay, go ahead.
Let me just pose this other question. This question about the mathematical perversion, where it's saying a majority of 65 is 34. So somebody posed a simple question. If you have 3 people, you divide by 2, you get 1.5. You round it off, you get to, you had 1 more 3. So of 3 people, the majority becomes 3. It's so ridiculous. You have a Commonwealth, you have a guideline that is being published and circulated widely. You have all the countries. In Jamaica, you have a 63 house chamber, and the majority is 32. In Trinidad, you have 41. The majority is 21.
Right.
In Guyana, you got 65. The majority is 33. But this is all tactics to delay time, buy time. And that's my observation. I would like to have your comment, and probably Says can comment on that too. Thank you.
My friend, let me take it for this, and then you're coming. All I want to say is what you said, you answered it at the end. It is all a matter of stalling time, stalling for time. They're rigging machinery, or the time for the APNU, AFC to rig the election, and I can tell you how they were going to rig it. The time has been cut short by a year and a half with this vote of no confidence. Because that is why they were all so shocked. That 1.5 years more to rig the election, we can't get it rigged properly now. And so that answers the question, but more specifically, let's take the numbers. We'll start from the third one first. Legally, we have 65 seats in Parliament. And the Constitution does not speak to an absolute majority. I don't know where they got the words from. There's a lunatic named Imran Khan who writes for the newspapers and Chronicle, and he does their videoing. He said they have 3 types of majority: simple majority, absolute majority, and then 2/3 majority. Well, who introduced absolute majority? What the Constitution says is on a majority of the elected members of Parliament. Now, we are 65. If only 45 are present one day, does that mean you don't have a majority? You can pass a bill? If one side has 20 and the other one has 25? Because all the elected members are there. That is where the interpretation is not for the likes of Imran Khan. He has to read some more. And Nigel Hughes, who's the one doing the maths, has a lot to lose. He's the only guy in his lawyer in an office in Houston, Texas, doing oil deals. I don't know where, from criminal to oil, but he certainly can't swing and deal in mathematics. Here's why. If you go with half of 65 as they're going, 32.5, you round it up to 33. You can't leave the other side at 32.5. You have to round that up also. So both sides will get 33. And one on one side will make it 34. So 34, 33, you still have a 1 seat majority. Why are they talking about an absolute majority? And then, if you use Nigel's formula, 32 and a half, round that alone to make it 33, you're going to have 34 to have a majority. 34 and the ones remains at 32, even though it's 32 and a half now. You have 64 and 66 seats, and we don't have 66. So that absurdity is not going to go anywhere. That's why they have not filed that in court. The other one where you were looking at where we talk of first the majority, and then the plurality, the vote that has to count. Then the majority of the voters, any one party, that party that has formed the government, has the president, and from the list of nominated persons, you will then have your members of parliament, based on the number of seats that you have. What have I missed? Help me out here. Sis?
All right. Yeah, my take on this thing is that there's a concept of greater than, and is 33 greater than 32? And the difference is yes.
That's all you need to know, right?
Elementary arithmetic that we learn in primary school teaches us that 33 is larger number than 32. But if you want to go by legal precedent, the largest democracy in the world, the Indian system, they define this majority as more than 50% of the total elected membership of their house. So their house has 545 elected voting members. So the method they use to certify their majority is they round up the total number 545 to the next even number, which is 546. And when you cut that in two, that derives the majority. So under those circumstances, as projected by some people in Georgetown, that
let me add something. That you use as embarrassing himself so much.
That is an arithmetic anomaly. It's ludicrous. So I don't want to run it because it's such a stupid argument that it is.
Very quickly, just one more. On March 28, 1979, the Hurricane government was removed from office by a 215-14 vote of no confidence. 215-14, one seat. And that was when Margaret Thatcher became Prime Minister of England. So these chaps are barking up the wrong tree.
I think, as I said, this topic of the 33-32 is such a stupid argument being forward of this 4 number that it doesn't deserve more minutes of my time. It's totally.
I agree with you.
Well, the audience had actually had a question that was not really answered fully. And in all fairness to Mr. Ramayana, he had asked if Charrandas can state clearly what are his intention over the next months, years.
Okay, let me tell you quickly. Leslie James made a statement that I'm a threat to national security. And he cannot answer why and what threat, what allegation they have against me. But what they're doing is they're looking to find me and have me go to Guyana so they can arrest me, hold me for 72 hours, keep me in some police station, and they will finish me off there and claim that I hang myself or that I drank poison or some crap like that. All they're looking for now is anything criminal. But you know what? I will be going back to Guyana, my friends, because that is where I lived. That is my home. That is where my job is. I'm in Canada right now, but I'm not working. How am I going to live for any length of time? Rent here is $2,000 a month for the smallest apartment you can come up with. So I have to go back to Guyana. And you know what? I will do like the doctor on Lama there. I'll give them my address. Come and find me anytime you want. I'm at this address. One time only, man. Only once I'll die. They will bury themselves when they do that. But now, I must admit, for now, I'm saying, let me sit it out for a bit until a date for election is fixed. That is my position.
So, folks, you hear it very clearly. he is making a very clear statement that he is going to sit it out until a date for the election is determined.
Yeah.
Now, we would like to ask for each of you, as I said early on, if you have a question that is quick, we will engage you. Yes, young man, if you could stand up and quickly make a statement.
All this thing that just made it clear that we're having a problem with arithmetic. My question is to the panel. After the judge, after the 15th, let's say she rules in the negative, what measures the PPP government will take, or what will be the next step of the PPP? And likely the judge...
What do you mean by negative?
The judge has to rule on the 15th, is that correct?
Yeah, but what do
yes, arguments will be tabled then, yes.
She got to abide with the Constitution. If she doesn't abide with the Constitution, what will be the next step of the PPP?
All right, let me answer that for you, my friend, because I'll tell you why.
And
the
why?
PPP is not involved in this one.
Let me be brief. Why we cannot protest against all the embassies in Guyana, overseas country? That government is illegal. Thank you.
All right. Let me answer that for you. This action that was filed by Compton Reed is not against the PPP. Understand who they filed it against. They filed it against the Attorney General, that's Basil Williams. They filed it against Charrandas Persaud, number 2, that's me. They filed it against the Speaker of the National Assembly, Dr. Barton Scotland. Now, if Charrandas does not defend this, as a man who wants the government out, for example, then Scotland, who is government, even though he's Speaker, and Basil Williams, who is government, are going to concede. And so that motion will be carried by the judge. By consent, we say yes to this. So I have already filed, and that's something, let me answer this. I have already filed my defense, as a matter of fact, more than a defense, through my lawyers in Guyana. And I have 3 very good lawyers, Dr. Din, Ryan Crawford, and very good son, Arul Gosai. We have filed to have the entire petition by Compton Reed struck out for its irregularity, for its illegality, and its invalidity. That has to be ruled before any other thing is ruled. Now let's assume, as you ask, that it goes against us, and it's not against the PPP government, it's against myself and the 2 other persons, the Speaker and the Attorney General. We will appeal. We will appeal the ruling to the Caribbean Court of Justice. But I'll tell you this, Roxanne George is a marvelous woman. She's a bright judge. And she has great aspirations of sitting in the Caribbean Court of Justice, the highest court in the Caribbean. She will not shit around. Once it's found that the action of the Compton Reed filed on behalf of the this man, Neil Boston and Rex McKay and them, who filed, is not proper, she will dismiss their petition. And then the government may want, the present APNU AFC team, they may want to, because they will have that option also, to appeal to the Caribbean Court of Justice. Again, all of that is simply to stall for time so they can continue rigging. I'll tell you guys about the rigging if you ask me that. Hello?
Well, I think you answered the question quite competently, so I have no comment.
Okay, guys.
Of what we have in Guyana, it's a simple number game. For the last 30 years, Guyana has a population of 750,000 people. And we know, and it hasn't changed. And we know the U.S. Embassy has been very liberal in giving out visas to Guyanese, especially since 2015. And also, the immigrant visa has gone up. So it means that Guyana probably, if you look at the numbers, because I don't want to throw out numbers.
It's losing numbers.
Guyana is probably less than 500,000 people present in Guyana right now.
Probably
And
true.
when you look back, those people who are traveling are the voters. People who are eligible to vote are the primarily people who are traveling. So it means that the current voter list, when you see that the LGE was at 30%, is probably more like 60 or 70% of the effective voters in Guyana. So really and truly, it's a humongous task to get a proper list. It's like going a complete census of Guyana because there's such movement of people. So in all fairness, we may have to make a judgment, and we take it as is and move forward.
Yep.
Well, I'm not here to support any of those things.
But I just have a take on that. We still got to guide every one of our action as prescribed by the Constitution. So the Constitution has already developed a roadmap for Guyana. And the players need to understand that they got to fall in line with that roadmap. We can't make it as we go along, because then we will have anarchy. Because when there's not a framework of laws to guide a nation and a people, then you will have anarchy. And that doesn't benefit Guyana at all and the people. So I am guiding again, whatever the rules on the books, let's just get them moving. And the wheels have to start turning. In Guyana, it appears, I'm getting this perceptive feeling that in Guyana, everybody is burning time aimlessly, especially those in decision-making positions. And Guyana is losing because we got bigger things to do as a nation. First of all, we got to get up to speed in preparation for 2020 and the oil. We're not up to speed. We don't have the full gamut of laws on the books, the full gamut of institutional structure in place, the full gamut of investment vehicles for these things. So you have
manpower
to do, but yet we're wasting valuable time on Peter vexed with Paul and Paul vexed with Raul, and we're wasting time like little children. There is a rule book in Guyana. Let's just follow the rule and get on with life.
Yes,
we can't,
could I offer a quick one on that? Here's what the rule book says. They've been quoting it all the time. Article 106.6 of the Constitution says, if a vote of no confidence is passed, the president and the cabinet must resign. It doesn't say when, it doesn't say time, but must resign. Article 106.7, right after 6, 106.6, 106.7 says, the government shall remain in office and run the affairs of the country until elections held and the president is put in place. But 106.6 says after they resign, they must call an election or hold an election, not call, within 90 days. So all they need to do is resign first to abide by the Constitution. Right away there's a breach. They will still be running the government. But again, what people may not understand, and I will offer to help there, is the president and the cabinet are what you call the executive branch. It simply means they cannot introduce new laws. They cannot get beyond doing certain things that the government of Guyana will be doing. Because I'll give you a quick example. Simona Brooms, Valerie Garrido-Low, these junior ministers are not members of cabinet, but they're government MPs. They're also ministers in the government. So that's to help you understand who the cabinet are. We are not cabinet members as backbenchers, but we are MPs, we're government. So the government will remain to run things until an election is held and a new president is sworn in, who will then have his new cabinet and new members of parliament. So the government right now, the PNC or the APNU AFC, have breached 106.6, the very constitution they're fighting on. What you do is you get out, resign, and then fight your court battles. But in the meantime, you've abided by 106, and you're simply doing what 107 says. 1067. We're running the country still. That's all.
Vishnu, if I may add a point, I listened to Charrandas's statement after he walked out of Parliament that night, and there's one thing he said. He said that the issue in the sugar industry really was one of the many issues that created the condition for him to do a conscious vote. Right. And to be honest, I mean, Charrandas has a human right like everyone else to do what his conscience tell him. I mean, you know, if we are going to quote some scriptures, we basically should understand. I mean, in Corinthians 1:12, it says clearly, "For our boost is this, the testimony of our conscience, that we behave in the world with simplicity and sincerity, not by earthly wisdom, but by the grace and the supreme towards yourself." So he acted in his conscience, and if he felt, because of what he saw in his village of Kanji, the destruction, the economic destruction, he has a right to do that. And we should not be able to say to him he doesn't have a right. His right, by exercising his conscience and his right, is resulted in a consequence, something happening. And once that has happened, then we all should take action to follow suit. And you know something? Let me tell you something. In 2015, Mr. Granger won that election as the presidential candidate, right? He won the majority. So I'm not here disputing that. I'm actually telling people Mr. Granger won the 2015 election. So let's destroy the myth that the PBP didn't won that election. That election was won by the APNU AFC coalition.
Yes.
And they won it on the back of saying, we are bringing something to the people that is different from what the PBP is offering. We're going to offer jobs to the youth. We shall not close down the sugar industry.
Yes, that was emphasized.
We shall not close down the sugar industry. Both Mr. Nagamutu and Mr. Granger said this at WIM. Charrandas was there at WIM also.
Yes.
Talking them up. You understand? And so, you know, in front of Dr. Ramaya's house. When you look at places like Kanji, you look at places like Enmore and the surrounding village, when you look gravely at Wales potential, what has happened to these villages? It's an immorality to see the social destruction that is happening. And I'm going to break it down in layman's term. I have been told on numerous occasions, you cannot leave your salt soap out in your yard in those two West Bank villages because somebody is going to steal it. Salted soap, sweet soap, soap powder, basic slippers. People are stealing in Wales potential. We have reduced people with dignity, cane cutters with dignity, into common thieves because we're not thinking. And let me give you some numbers on this. So the PBP was pumping about 8 billion Guyana dollars into the sugar industry. And of course, the PNC took over that burden and pumped a little bit more. But the reality is what they have not done from a financial perspective is that by putting that $8 billion into the industry annually, it created economic activity across rural Demerara and rural Berbice that ran to 100 billion Guyana dollars. That went to the workers, that went to the taxman, that went to the shopkeepers, that went to the, anybody who these cane cutters were buying stuff from. 100 billion in economic activity. So you lose 8, but you gain 100. That is what finance will tell you. But these guys were bean counters. They were only looking, we're losing 8, we're losing 8. I mean, Clive Thomas went and tell the world that, Gaisuku has $82 billion in debt. It's a dishonest statement because Gaisuku only had, at that time when he did the study, about $30 billion in real debt. The other money was mixed into two things. One, the retirement benefits, which is immediately payable. And secondly, It was the cost of that sugar factory at Skeldon, which is a decision taken by the government of Guyana, and the government of Guyana needs to own that debt, not Gaisuku. So they were misleading the people on all these things. So on that issue that Charrandas raised when he left and says, I can't take it no more to see what's going on in Kanji, I sympathize with his position. I sympathize with his position on that fact.
Well,
Thank you, my brother. Thank
since
you.
you brought up the issue of numbers, I must say, by looking at our Facebook, I can see we have 100+ people tracking us. And on WhatsApp, we have another 50+ people. So the audience is very significant and it's growing. We would like to take the opportunity now to ask any other member of the audience if they have a question or someone who is on Facebook they want to pose. I noticed the young lady at the back had asked twice, so let us give her an opportunity. Identify yourself and a brief question, please.
Hello.
Hello.
Yes. Good evening, everyone.
Okay.
So my question for you
Hi,
guys, Mr. Charrandas and yes. Okay, my name is Malika Clark. So, okay, closer. My name is Malika Clark. Mr. Charrandas, when you were talking about the government, I mean, addressing the nation during budget and talking so highly about the government of the day in Guyana, were you truthful to the people of Guyana and the diaspora? And Mr. Ramayo, I'm not familiar with your name. You were a part of the PPP. How come you left the PPP, and are you going back with them? Those are my two questions. I just want to know.
All right, let me answer you first. That's what you're referring to. There are options. They did build the roads. They set New Amsterdam on a brand new main road, the one side, what we know as the back dam. They did all of that. That's that's what they did.
Sis, maybe you could address that whilst there's a break in Charrandas communication.
Well, I think the question was addressed to him. Is a personal question to really get his personal opinion. I don't think I am authorized to speak on behalf of him.
Well,
but I would want to talk around the precondition. I mean, people got to understand it was leading up. What led up to, and I think December 21 was a shock to everyone. The general consensus was that it was going to be a great debate where the government was going to be named and shamed. And that's where it was going to end. Nobody, at least from where the people I spoke to, they didn't expected this. But it's like, you know, when two people come together in their private moments and a baby is created, nobody, and they call it, you know, in modern term, they call it an accident. Nobody expected it. It happened. So what do? You deal with the reality. You deal with it. You don't run and hide like a little boy and cry foul. And this is the reality. Nobody expected it to happen, and it happened. But so we deal with it. But the precondition for, look what happened with the teachers' strike. GTU, which historically has been a union closely associated with the PNC government of the past, via Ms. Persico, who was the president and became a PNC minister, and their leadership has generally been in support of the government. Look what the government did to the teachers' union over the last 2 years. They basically stretched them out, squeezed them to give them a paltry 7% and really declining. But yet that same government found the resources to pay some of their ministers 50%. And this is the kind of mismatch that we're all feeding in to a building consensus that the people were losing confidence in the government. So if the people were increasingly losing confidence in the government, then obviously that feeling, that sentiment will feed into Parliament. taking, for example, what the government has done to two people who worked so hard for Mr. Granger to win, Dr. David Hines and Lincoln Lewis. And what they did to them, just because these guys were plain speakers, they banned them from the public system. They banned them. Well, that was quite stupid because the Guyana Chronicle gets a reading from under 3,000 people. Kaieteur News gets 50,000 people on the weekend. So guess what? You move those guys from a 2,000 readership to a 50,000 readership because you are mentally not ready to deal with independent thought. Who would say that David Hines is a PPP supporter? Who would say that Lincoln Lewis is a PPP supporter? But they were talking about bread and butter issues, village issues, issues that affect the man in the street. And the cabal who was running the country felt that they have no right to talk about these truths. But these truths are real life for people. And this is what I'm saying. It's been building and building and building. And it resulted, the sentiment fed into Parliament. It happened. So it's happened. What do we do now? We accept it.
I just want to interrupt briefly because Mr. Ramayana was asked a question. I will give him a chance to answer. I'll be waiting on Chandra Das to come back in, but Ramayana, let him answer this question.
All right. I'm here, Vishnu. You can hear me?
Some light to this question here. To begin with.
Can you hear me, Vishnu?
Yes, you'll be next.
I did not vote it for the coalition. I'm the only one who did not vote it for the coalition because Kemraj and Moses deceived the people. But to follow the protocol and what Charrandas did, he followed the protocol to talk about the budget. He was playing a little game, if you want to put it that way. But he did the right thing at the right moment because the government was going back to where they were 28 years. That is how I saw it. But I spoke against the government while I was working for them as the RU. And I left the job because I will not follow that protocol. So I had the guts to walk away from them. And I am the one who put them there in 2011 with the coalition. That was when the turn back came. However, what Charrandas did, and you're quite right, he supported the budget. Was not a bad budget, but if he had done something contrary in that budget, they could have replaced him.
There you go.
Because they have replaced him as soon as
add.
he voted for the no confidence motion. And this is what people don't understand. Sometimes you have to play the games to know where they're going. And this is what politics is all about.
Well, let's ask Mr. Charrandas to also add to that response. Mr. Charrandas, go ahead, sir.
All right. To further answer the question, when I spoke of what they've done in Berbice, I didn't lie. Those are the things they did. They did put streetlights along the 19th road. You lay off 4,000 workers. I'll tell you, because I'm going through that right now.
Could you repeat some of what you said early on because there was a break in transmission?
Okay, all right, yeah. What I was saying was, what I said in the budget speech, I have to support.
Mr. Charnas, we will call you back. We will call you back, Mr. Charnas. Can you hang up so we can call you back?
Yeah.
Don't move around too much.
Well, whilst we're going to resolve that issue, we have some folks who are budding to ask their questions, but at the same time, I would like to give opportunities to others just in case there is anyone else who wants to ask. But, young man, go ahead again.
Hello, good afternoon.
Yes, Sharon, we can hear you.
Oh, good. All right. What I was saying to answer the question, let me very quickly go from the top here. The question was asked whether or not I lied to the people. I will say this publicly. I don't lie. When I spoke in favor of the budget, I spoke particularly of Region 6 the development in Region 6. And over a 3.5-year period, they did. They did do roads, they did put lights, not all over the place. They worked in Region 6, some. They had to give us something. They couldn't just neglect Region 6 because they couldn't get votes in Regions 5 and 6. So they gave us something. What I said was the truth. But when I listened to the no confidence debate, remember, first of all, the no confidence motion was filed on the 16th of November. Local government election was on the 12th of November, sorry. Local government was on the 12th of November. The motion of no confidence was filed by the opposition leader, Dr. Jagdev, on the 16th of November. What that man was doing, he succeeded in doing what he wanted to do, to cause confusion among the ranks. Amna Ali accused told Moses Nagamutu that some of your people may defect, may cross the floor. Moses Nagamutu said, why don't you look at your people? So and so and so and so may cross the floor. And there was a big issue because what Dr. Jagdev did was to literally roll with the votes in the local government election, the landslide victory that the PPP had, and deemed that to mean the people generally had no confidence in the government. So let me move it. And his appeal was also to the members of the parliament to vote in favor of the motion of no confidence. When I listened to Jagdev fooled the people. He was married. He said he was married, but he never married the girl legally. The man did this. That is a personal slap. You can't be so personal when you're debating no confidence motion. Speak of what you as the government may have done to instill confidence in the people. But he didn't even know how to argue a no confidence motion. And then you hear all they're saying is bring it on, bring it on. But my mind was made up the day before that. At that stage, I said, this is enough. And at that stage, I decided I would support the no confidence motion. And I spoke to an individual. You all know him by now. He's even on the hit list, Peter Ramsarup, to give me some assistance because I've known the man for a number of years. I know he's a military man in the United States of America, and I knew I could depend on him. And I told him, I said, look, tomorrow night after the vote, I may need some help because you never know how things will turn out. That was how I got Peter Ramsarup involved. I did not talk to Mr. Jagdev. The man doesn't even talk to me. I'll say a hi or a hello. And so what is going on now in all that was said, all the questions that you want to ask, just look at the one thing. The present government, APNU, AFC, is breaching Constitution. They have not abided by the simple Constitution, which will still keep them in power, and they can still go to court with it, as I said earlier. But they want to bully their way through. They are looking now at how their rigging machinery has been cut short. And if you all want to know, I'll tell you, like I said, I can tell you about that. What they're doing is going into the interior, the hinterland, mining towns, and give people who are not Guyanese birth certificates so they can get ID cards and they can vote. That is what they've been doing. And that speed has been cut a year and a half more. They could have done a few thousands more and so increase their numbers at the ballot boxes. But that has been cut short, and that's one of the reasons why they hate me. They're saying they never threatened me. Carl Gwynn is saying he never knew of a threat. That man is such a short piece of lie. Well, he's short and he's a big liar. He was in Parliament when the words came out so clearly, Charrandas, you're going dead tonight, from Jennifer Wade, an MP from Region 5. He didn't hear that. The entire world heard that. Am I supposed to think Jennifer was joking with me? Did she want to sleep with me tonight and think I was going to die? That was a threat to my life. And I was deathly afraid. So I sought help from the Canadian. My friends, I'm trying to answer the questions as honestly as I can.
Well, I actually have Mr. Sandichara get to you in a second. I have a comment here that I picked up from Mr. Vishnu Durga. He says a significant issue is the lack of competence to deliver on the results the country requires. As long as we keep putting people who do not have the ability to deliver results, we receive the same. This is actually one of the statements that was made by someone on the WhatsApp tool, and I would like if you can engage that into a quick conversation.
I can jump in first. I want to show, if possible, if you can bring up a graph and just see. This is basically this is the state of what the government has deposited in the government with the central bank. As you can see, it's positive. May 2015, about $12 billion. The government had in actual cash with the Bank of Guyana. Look where it was by October 2018. Deep negative, basically, as people know in their common terminology, an overdraft. The government has basically drained the Bank of Guyana of cash and even went so far to borrow against it. What are they borrowing against? They're borrowing against the assets of the Bank of Guyana, like the gold and the foreign reserves. They have actually run this country in the opposite direction. So the question is, I believe, honestly, that this no confidence motion had to happen. Whether it had happened on December 21st or whether it happened on March 21st, it was going to happen. Because the conditions, the underlying conditions at the bottom, where the real man lives, not those who are living in the ivory tower with the Prados and whatever high-level vehicles and their $500,000 rental, ministerial rental. Not them. They're number less than 100. The real people live down in the trenches, and those people were catching fire. They were catching hell because of the state of the economy, and they're not feeling the impact of this economy. So, as I said again and again, I agree with Vishnu, we got to change the way we run the country. And that is why I believe dialogue is the way forward. Now, not dialogue to extend the term of a government who is on a clock with regards to a no confidence motion, but dialogue as to the long-term future of the nation. As I said, in 1992, the PPP had a natural majority. As we saw with migration, those majorities are not to be taken granted anymore. So every vote has to be worked for now. And thus, it creates a condition where we can change the way we work. We can change the way we think about the country, where we start thinking about ourselves as Guyanese rather than this man and that man. We see ourselves as one unit, irrespective of what our cultural background is. Because Guyana belonged to all of us. We didn't choose, my foreparents didn't choose to come to Guyana. And the foreparents of my brothers in Buxton didn't choose to come to Guyana. They were forced to come to Guyana. And because we all got there by force, we must understand we got to work together. We have to.
Well, folks, just for information, this program was planned in such a way that we gave all parties an opportunity to present themselves. The APNU was contacted, and I'm talking at the highest level of the APNU. They were invited to participate. In addition to that, the PPP was also invited, and again from the Ramjatan, and when you are on to answer his to ask his question.
Yeah, I heard that.
Yes, sir.
In particular, I want Dr. Sayce to answer this. Is the Honorable Foreign Affairs Minister is giving our opposition leader an update status between Venezuela and Guyana, and why they stopped drilling, and what has become, what explanation was given to the Guyana government, why they stopped the drilling, and what will be the final price for 1 barrel of oil at the end of the, when we start get oil. Thank you.
First off, not yet, boss, not yet. I'm not no Dr. Sayce. I'm just ordinary Sayce. Treat me like that. I'm a member of the proletariat, the working class. I might look with a suit and tie, but I know where I came from. But let's get down to the real nuts and bolts. This whole oil investment, people need to understand, Guyana has no control of it. And once people understand that basic fact, then they will understand where we are situated in the grand scheme of things. The oil investment is out there in the sea. Ask anybody in Georgetown or Mahaika or Crabwood Creek if they ever saw the oil investment. They've never seen it. It's an illusion to them, except for a few politicians who would helicoptered out there. They've never seen it. So you can't see it, you can't touch it, you can't feel it. So you don't really understand what is happening. ExxonMobil dominates that environment. That is their thing. It's like a company. It's like a country within a country. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like a country within a country. That entire oil investment is a country within a country. Trinidad and Tobago is benefiting from that oil investment much more than Guyana is right now, because Trinidad has the experience to provide what you call the oil rig services, like the piping, the food, the helicopter, the transportation, the hotel. Port of Spain is booming much more than Guyana because of the amount of oil executive passing through there on their way to the rig. So, and engineers and technicians and so forth. So Trinidad is really having a sweet life and a good life off of this oil investment compared to Guyana. So we don't have a major say in what is happening. Now, Venezuela had moved in, the Venezuelan naval ship had moved in and told an exploratory ship that that they were in Venezuelan waters. As per protocol, they've decided that they're going to withdraw, meaning the exploratory ship. But it is absolutely clear that every Guyanese must stand with the government of Guyana that is sitting right now on this this Venezuela-Guyana border issue. I stand with Carl Greenwich on it. I heard the opposition stand with him on it, because when it comes to our borders, we are one. There's no Albion, there's no Buxton. We are one, and we're unilaterally one. Venezuela is a big bully, and there is a medicine to deal with bullies. And Guyana is doing the right thing with regards to, and I got to commend Mr. Granger's administration for this. They've already started to engage the British in talks. It's already been announced. The Brits might set up a military base in Guyana. Very important for Guyana, so that we could put the right punch to the bullies, because that water where that ship was in is our own. It is not Venezuela's own. And if we got to get the help from Big Brothers, wherever they're situated, it's like the schoolyard fight, right? The big bully come and try to bully the little kids, and we call him Big Brother. We will have to put that bully to his place one day.
Says, on that note, I just want to add the following. The no confidence motion was actually passed on the 21st of December at around 8:30 p.m. And the Venezuelan army was in Guyana's water by Saturday, the 22nd at 10 a.m. But what I have here is a press statement that came from the U.S. State Department, and I'll read it verbatim. This came from the press statement from Robert Palladino, deputy spokesman, and this was released on December 23rd. On December 22nd, the Venezuelan Navy aggressively stopped Exxon contracted vessels operating under an oil exploration agreement with the Cooperative Republic of Guyana in its exclusive economic zone. We underscore that Guyana has the sovereign right to explore and exploit resources in its exclusive economic zone. We call on Venezuela to respect international law and the rights of its neighbors. This is what the U.S. position is on that issue. So whilst we're having some level of turmoil in Guyana, there are other businesses have a large interest in our country. And we are happy that we have people like the United States to be counted as our friend. Well, with that, I would like to ask her for any other follow-up question, because we have taken quite some time, and I will open it to anyone who wants to ask a question. Go ahead, ask the question, sir. It's okay. They have you on camera.
Yeah, just a Facebook question from Randolph Sobrian. He says, talk about organizing demonstrations at the UN and other US government offices to support the no confidence vote. And I have one for Mr. Charrandas here. Just give me a second. Someone was asking Mr. Charrandas if the PPP asked him to join forces with them in the upcoming elections, if he would or if he would not.
Okay.
Vishnu, before we go to Charrandas, can I ask Charrandas a question? And I was thinking about this.
Yes, you're allowed to do that, sir.
Because I want to put him on the spot. Charan is a brother. I'm telling you, he's a brother because I saw his character when we worked in the trenches in 2011. He's a good human being. But let's, I want to ask him straight up. And Charan, did you take a bribe from anyone to make that vote?
Did I take a bribe?
Yeah, did
no,
you?
No, my friend. That's an emphatic no.
Good.
All their allegations that I went to Trinidad the week before. How could I? We were in Parliament.
But Charan, before you continue, I want you to say the Charrandas style. You want to repeat it how many times? No.
Oh, yeah.
No,
no, I did not take a bribe.
Good.
No, I did not take a bribe. No, nobody even offered me a goddamn dollar.
All right. You put that to rest in my mind. Thank you.
And you know I would not lie about that. Right now, like I said, I'm worried about making payments. I'm making payments for the same product they said I sold. And I bought a piece of land which they said I sold. Well, I'm looking to sell both. That's the truth. Because I can't pay for them now.
So how is this whole situation affecting your business? Because every man has a business and a family to take care of. How is this affecting you?
My biggest concern now, my friend, is I've taken and if they want, they can check this out. There's the case of Cassandra Dorset and Alan Dorset, a murder case. They killed them, or they've been charged for a murder at Metin-Meersburg. I am one of the lawyers doing the case there with Nigel Hughes and a few others. I've charged the people money. They advanced me some money. That case is due to start early next week in Georgetown. That is what worries me. I've taken people's money, and I'm not there to perform for them. I've also asked a couple of lawyers now to help me out, and quite a few that I've spoken to have agreed to help. So I'm hoping I can put the matter in the hands of lawyers who are capable enough to handle them, just to take care of their clients. That's my biggest concern. My office is still there, still in my name. I paid the rent for January. They said I give up my office. All these things that these chaps are jumping at, notice that they've given up on this bribe thing, because they can't prove that I have any money more than the few dollars that I have in my Republic Bank and Scotia Bank in Guyana. And I can give them my TD Bank account if they want. But these are losers. They're hustling and they can't come up with anything. They said that I was going to buy gold. What is wrong with buying gold? Any one of you that would love to have a piece of gold, raw gold, to buy from one of the miners, so you can make jewelry for your son, your grandson, your wife, daughter, as the case might be. I have clients who are still looking for gold. And so I was negotiating with a couple of dealers, finding out the price, what it will take if you buy it in Guyana, or if they ship it and we receive it in Canada. That is what I was doing. So I went to two dealers. They went to, Camaraj and his team went to the one of them on Rob Street, and they seized the man's computer and everything. What the ass are they investigating? What is wrong with making inquiries? I told them, and I hope somebody can hear this, I want to buy the Marriott Camaraj Ramjatan. I want to offer you $50 million for the Marriott. Don't ask me where I'll get the money, you fool. But I want to buy it. That's how stupid they are.
Now, we actually have a caller who is on the phone, and we'd like to actually bring that caller on board. Go ahead. Well, having said that, young lady, you have a follow-up question?
Mr. Charrandas, should authorities call you forward to do a lie detector test pertaining to the alleged bribe that you took? Would you come forward,
Right.
and should the results be positive, what will be your how would you feel after then? And then earlier I said Mr. Ramaya or whatever your name is, sorry sir. Allow me please, thank you. Mr. Says Narayan, my question actually was for you. Since you were a part of the PPP, why did you leave? And are you back with them? That's all. Guys, can you be direct? Because you guys been dancing around my questions, and I'm here for us to work together.
All right, let me answer you first. First of all, in law we'll call it a double whammy. It was not a single question. Your question was, first of all, if they ask me to do a lie detector, will I submit to it? And then you also said, and if it is found, yes. Yes, I will submit to it, and I'll tell you that they cannot, a lie detector, no matter what they do with it, will not find that I accepted bribe, because nobody has given me any money up to now to say, look, I'm bribing you to vote. I voted because I wanted to remove ministry off. It cannot be positive. So I wouldn't have to worry about what happens if it is.
Well, having resolved that issue, Mr. Ramayana, you had a concern that the question was not answered properly. Could you restate areas where he needs to answer it? I'm asked to paraphrase the question, and the question is: would you be joining with the PPP in the forthcoming election?
Who, me?
Yes, Mr. Charrandas.
Oh, no. No, I will not be, because I don't want to be a minister, and I don't want to be prime minister or president, so I'm not going to be campaigning with them.
Sis, and the question was also why you left. Well, you left a couple of places, but you can actually say more of yourself in terms of where you were and why you are here.
First of all, for the record, I'm not a member of any political party. The last political party I was part of was the Alliance for Change, and I left, legitimately resigned in April 2014. It's in the public, it's in the Starbuck News and the Kaituur News. It was publicly carried in the Demerara Wave. So there's a clear indication that I left long before the coalition and long before this no confidence vote. I've just decided that I wanted to be a private citizen, and that's my right. So before that, I used to be a member of the PPP. And again, what has happened is that I have spent a lot of my life developing myself in universities and so forth. And those times that you're away, you felt that you want to go a different path. Let's reflect on Ronald Reagan. Do you know that Ronald Reagan was a bona fide Democrat in the 60s? Yet he served as a Republican president, actually one of the most successful Republican president ever. So guess what? He has that right. Don't I have the right to associate with anyone I want to be associated with? And right now, I'm not a member of any political party.
Well, I'm looking at some comments that we have on Facebook. In fact, right now, our count on Facebook is 275 people watching us live. And Mr. Nifaloa Singh said, APNU coalition must resign. PNC is still the same bully. They must be thrown out of government. Do you think this is a fair comment?
Let Charrandas go first.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that for me, please, buddy?
Mr. Nilfar Singh said on Facebook, APNU coalition must resign. PNC is the same bully. They must be thrown out of government.
My friend, that was clear, you know. The Constitution speaks to the vote of no confidence, 1066 being carried. The government must resign. And why is it I'm saying it's the PNC? Walter Lawrence made that clear. She's the chairman of the PNC. But if, as chairman of the PNC, you can speak on behalf of the PNC, but she's also Minister of Public Health. And that woman said, I am PNC, my friends are PNC, and I going to give work to PNC people to not statement. And a very educated man was Minister of Education next to Pagwali, who was Junior Minister of Education. What did I say, Pagwali? Yeah. And now the Pagwali lady is the minister, and Rupert has been removed. He offered to resign. They created a ministry. You ever hear the ministry name? Just to keep Rupert there, and he took it. He took it like a licked dog, pulled his tail between his legs, and continued staying in the shit. Now, I couldn't handle all of that. I didn't want to be governed by PNC because I know, my friends, I'm old enough to know what the PNC was all about. I was lining up for flour. I had to smuggle flour in my car from Krabu Creek and come down and worry whether I get locked up. And if the police stop you, when you get to pay. That was what the PNC put us through.
Well, I'm hoping that there is what you call a statute of limitation when it comes to those sort of crime, because probably all of us are guilty of that. But my friend from the media, she has another follow-up question. Can you go ahead, please?
Mr. Charrandas, you're making your statement, yes. And prior to, currently, you just stated something about Pagwali. With all due respect to our women, they're serving our country. You're a man. This is being aired in the United States of America prior to where you are. Kindly have some respect and stop being disrespectful and abusive to our ministers of government. They have names and they have status. Please address them as such. Thank you, sir.
Oh, all right, that's fine. She couldn't tell the difference between Diwali and Pagwa. She's the one who said it was Pagwali.
Okay, folks, just we want to make sure we have some order. Young man, what's your question?
For Mr. Charan.
Yes.
Your seat has been replaced by someone else. Being an AFC member, but that person is an APNU member. How right is that?
Thank
you.
Again, it's because we are yes men. The AFC team, Moses, Kemraj, and Raphael Trotman, they take what is given to them because they don't want to say anything that will cause them to be removed as Charrandas Persaud was removed. So if they say, no, we don't want Barbara Pilgrim, she's PNC. Then, oh, you don't want Barbara Pilgrim, we don't want you. Out you go. And that is what the government or the Granger team can do. Remove anybody from the Prime Minister on the AFC side, come right down. Because the Cummingsburg Accord is a piece of rot type of arrangement. That's what it is. So they didn't want that. They can object to Barbara Pilgrim, a PNC person, replacing our AFC. It's simple. If two more AFC people, PNC people.
Some limitations in that we only have this forum for a limited time. So I have Mr. Kenneth Dubé has a question. Okay, young man at the back, you have a question for us, please?
Here we go. Says, how you doing? This is O.C. Rogers, Mr. Charrandas. I want to say congratulations to you two on being a man of principle. I know, says, myself and says Narayan, we did a lot of work together. He's also a man of principle. So I wanna say that I respect you guys as principled people, and I want to come out in some defense of Says, because I think principled people with principle, are not blinded or do not have blind political loyalty. when you believe in principle and your party is moving away from some of the things you stand for, you get upset and some people...
Sorry to interrupt. That is exactly my point. Thank you.
You're welcome, Charrandas. Some people leave and some people stay. So I understand the situation that that Sis spoke about. Me, myself, being a member of the media in Guyana and stuff like that, I was bashed somewhat too for my political views. And, you know, but I always consider myself, I always tell people I'm not a blind political loyalist. I believe in my country, and I want to see what's right for my country. Most of the people here know, and I see Mr. Dr. Ramaya, how you doing? It's good to see you guys. Most of the people here know that I grew up as a member of the PPP, and in 2015, I departed. I did not vote for the PPP at the 2015 elections. I supported the coalition because I wanted to see a new direction for our country. But we were blindsided, we were fooled, and Guyana is not moving forward, it has moved backwards. And we have seen the resurgence of, one of the things I have learned as a young man growing up in Linden is of the PNC bullyism, and we've seen it again. The Constitution is clear. The Constitution is clear. Once the government has lost the no confidence motion, they should resign. And they bring up all these kind of excuses just to stay in power, all right? They should resign. They should not scare to go to the polls. They know why they're scared to go to the polls. They're scared to go to the polls because they know they cannot win another elections, because you can fool some of the people some of the time, but you can't fool the Guyanese people again. And the Guyanese people, including myself and those of us out here in the diaspora, know when the country was actually on its way to development and where the country is today. So I just wanted to take the microphone. I came here as a spectator, but I just wanted to take the microphone to give a pat on the back to my brother Sis Narayan and Mr. Charrandas Persaud, and to all the others who people might be out there bashing. Listen up. You know, let us always stand for principle and what's right. A lot of us out here in the diaspora, we don't really we're not really dependent on anything from Guyana. We're out here and we're working hard because we love our country, we want to see our country develop. And to the young lady at the back there, I didn't really want to address you directly, you know, but Mr. Charrandas, he worked with those people. He worked with those people. And if you have a minister of government that is responsible for education and culture, that does not know the difference between the two festivals, the two Hindu festivals of Pagwa and Diwali, you have a right to bash her. And any one of us in Guyana have a right to bash her, regardless of our religion and regardless of the color of our skin.
Okay, sir, but we need a question.
All right, so I'm just going to leave it there, sir.
Sure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, sir. You have a question?
My name is Leland Rupnarayan, and like our two panelists there, I was also a member of the AFC, as well as Dr. Ramaya. And to everyone here, in 2015, I thought, to the best of my knowledge, having grave shortcomings regarding both the two major political parties, I thought it would have been, based on all the evidence I have, it would be a good venture to support the coalition government. I think that's one of the greatest mistakes I've made in my life, and I apologize to the people of Guyana. The question I have for our two panelists is that if this constitutional crisis that we are facing goes to the court, and the court upholds the plaintiff, then we have the second court, which is the High Court. And then we have the third court, which is the Caribbean Court of Justice. This is really a constitutional crisis because we are looking at a very, very long time. What is going to happen to this actual government that's there now? Will they resign and become an interim government? Would we have an ad hoc government? Or would we have a semi-government with both parties being involved in running the affairs of the country? Above all else, would Guyana descend into chaos like we did when the British suspended the Constitution?
Mr. Charrandas and Sis, I would like both of you, if you could take that on.
All right, very quickly, if I may. That's a tough question, you know, because it is hard to predict what these people will do. if for example, let's just say the High Court on the 15th
I think you might have lost Charrandas there, but did you lose him? All right. I can co-join in answering to some extent. First of all, I agree. It is actually one of the most important questions because it speaks to process, and the process is bolstered by the framework, the legal framework, which is the Constitution. Now, Mr. Granger and his government has until March 21st to continue to run the affairs of the state as the executive and to facilitate an election. Now, if March 21st comes and they have not been able to facilitate an elections, then we're moving into uncharted waters. The reality is, based on the statements I'm hearing from the government, they are prepared to continue to. So right now, let's make this very clear. And I know some people may not agree with it, but this is my position based on my reading of the Constitution. The government can stay in place until March 21st, legitimately. Nobody could put them out before March 21st. And let's be absolutely clear about that. I am not in the business of putting governments out. I believe governments must be there, but governments must be there rightfully and legally and legitimately. So right now the government is serving legitimately. So let's dispense all that gibberish that I see happening on Facebook where people are trying to brand the government as illegitimate. It is not illegitimate until March 21st. But when March 21st comes, the government will then change its role from a legitimate government to an illegitimate government until or unless 2/3 of the parliament extends that time period. So if Mr. Jagdeo and Mr. Granger do not agree on an extension date or an extension time period, then we will have an illegitimate government in place. So it's a tough question. So what do people do with an illegitimate government? The first thing that will happen is the IMF, the World Bank, and all the international loan agencies will make a mental note of that. And there's a high possibility they will stop doing business with an illegitimate government.
Yes, that should happen.
Secondly, friendly nations will then start using, like the ABC countries, friendly nations who have a foundation in democracy, like America, Britain, and Canada, will start using their diplomatic prowess and strength to be able to push and influence like they did in 1990 when Guyana was in a period of undemocratic, uncreditworthy situation. They were able to, via a vehicle called Jimmy Carter and his Carter Center, to use that vehicle to bring Guyana back into the fraternity of nations, of democratic nations. So Guyana is still a democracy as we speak, and we must respect that. I respect the government of the day as of this point in time. I will continue to call Mr. Granger His Excellency, the President of Guyana, until March 21st. So at this point, he is my president. He is the Excellency, the President. And people must not try to take that away from him. He won the elections free and fair in 2015. It's his presidency until March 21st, 22nd. So with that in place, that's a very tough question. Beyond March 21st, 22nd, this thing can swing a lot of ways. A lot of ways. It could swing from people being a gentleman and saying, well, let's get into a caretaker government whereby we operate by consensus, or it can come to where, a kind of struggle happens from happening. It could mean a lot of things, and I am not God, so I'm not going to project beyond May 21st. But I'm very, very worried because the biggest risk right now is GCOM is deliberately, it's looking that way. The perception is GCOM is deliberately stalling And as they stall, they're contributing to an anti-democracy situation. And that is dangerous because we're playing with fire. We move from a democracy to a dictatorship.
Now, folks, I have also...
yes, I agree with you there. Yes, on everything.
Sharon, you want to add any more information to it? Because I have a call on hold for a while.
Variation from what SACE offered. Because my take on that is, having been given by the Speaker of the National Assembly that the vote of no confidence was passed, Granger and the Cabinet should have resigned immediately. They have not done so. And like I said, resign and then continue running because 106.7 allows that. Continue running the affairs of the country, but they would have been restricted in what they do as a government then. But they have not done that, so they're still, right now, running things, even though they could have been legally entitled to so do, they have violated the Constitution by not resigning. And so that's the only difference from what SACE offered. And true, if at the end of this, the courts rule that the CCJ, the highest appellate court in the Caribbean for us, or for us in Guyana, and we, or the no confidence motion is not passed, then sure enough, back to the business of the Granger government running things. But if it is passed, then they have no goddamn choice but to get out of there. And so we will then have the possibility of asking other nations then to support such a move and have democracy be maintained, must be maintained.
Okay, well,
we're not uncivilized.
Thank you again. We have a call on hold. We will bring that caller live. Caller, can you go on?
I mean, if he get out, what's going to happen? They're going to create a chaos. It's going to become a no-man land.
Hello?
Yes, hello?
Okay, folks. Caller, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Go ahead.
Very well. Well, thanks, Vishnu. This is Salim, a good friend of yours. And how are you doing, SACE? And how are you doing, Charrandas Persaud?
I'm good, I'm good.
Fantastic job in
Thank you.
Highlighting some of the critical issues that's affecting Guyana. Congratulations for the great job that you guys have done in creating this platform and allowing Guyanese to vent on these critical issues. I have a quick statement and, of course, a question. You know, this whole no confidence motion, I guess it was passed not because of any other reason, but because we have an APNU AFC government that has proven to be visionless, that has proven not to have a strategy, and has put Guyana at economic and political risk of being a country in absolute failure. You know, so I think the no confidence motion is something we should take very seriously, as it is a turn in the positive direction for Guyana. I myself was an AFC. I was contracted by the AFC to conduct some professional work for them. At that time, I did believe in them, but you know, things have happened. I certainly don't believe in what they espouse at this stage of the game. But my question is. And the question that they're looking at now is the dual citizenship of Mr. Charrandas Persaud. I have no problem with anyone having dual citizenship or 10 citizenship. That is your right. But I think from a development perspective and looking at Guyana specifically, where you have, as Vishnu mentioned, 750,000 Guyanese in Guyana, and you probably have more than 850,000 outside of Guyana. And I would argue the fact also that that more than I think the 850 outside of Guyana can probably I wouldn't want to use the wrong word, but I assume they have some skills level and some level of maturity.
You mean
that can help
outmatch us locally?
Do you guys coming to my question, Charrandas and Says, do you guys believe that maybe Guyana, because it's so uniquely different from so many other countries, in that we do have so many of our people in the diaspora, and the diaspora contributes significantly to our economy? Do you see a more significant role of the diaspora in the coming government, as more importantly, in the Constitution as part of the constitutional reform process? I know AFC has spoken about it. I know the APNU have spoken about it. I know the PPP have spoken about it. But I think it is time for us to stop, treating the diaspora, and I am a diaspora advocate, as though we are not interested in Guyana and we don't care about Guyanese and our brothers and sisters, and that we have nothing to contribute. I think we do care and we have a ton to contribute. However, there isn't a legal and a commitment from the highest level to involve the diaspora. And that's my question.
Let me jump into that first. First of all, I think there is a ideological barrier to many people in decision-making position with respect to the diaspora. And I'll tell you why. On all sides, I make this very clear on all sides. They want money from the diaspora, but they don't want their presence. And that's very, very fundamental. That's a flawed position, because if you look at 2002, the diaspora transmitted back to Guyana approximately $403 million in that year. Of course, since then, because of everything, you had the Ramatar period where lots of political uncertainty, and then the Granger period, which was filled with lots of incompetence and allegations of corruption also. And so hence the diaspora has contributed less to Guyana, 150 million less. The last statistics I saw for the end of 2018, the diaspora contributed about $251 million to Guyana. But the big challenge is the diaspora is still one of the biggest investors in Guyana. The only industry in Guyana right now that is bigger than the diaspora investment is gold. So the diaspora has a role to play in Guyana. And credit to the AFC. In 2011, they made it a manifesto promise that they were going to put in place diaspora member parliaments if they influence constitutional changes, diaspora members on boards and so forth, because they valued the, as someone, Rupert Rupnarayan had said this once in a parliamentary debate where he said 9 out of 10 of our tertiary or our university educated people have left Guyana. So the creme de la creme has literally left. And hence, for Guyana to really transform at a rapid pace, we need to engage that engine that is situated in every city literally of the world, and leverage them for Guyana's development. So I endorse what Salim said, which is basically the diaspora needs to be more effectively engaged. But it's getting a tremendous amount of resistance from senior politicians on all sides. And that is the challenge, because how dare Basil Williams, as the head of the bar, says that, Charrandas now is a person non grata because of his immigration status. Wasn't Charrandas born in somewhere in Borby, some mud? His neighbors in Borby.
Let me say this, and to the young lady who felt that I was disrespectful to women, if I have to say something bad about a woman, I've heard people talk evil things about their own mothers because the mother was not faithful. I can name a few for you if you want. Does that mean that I'm disrespecting women? Now I will tell you about Basil Williams. It doesn't mean that I'm disrespecting all the men.
Charan, for the record, I want you to establish loud and clear where you were born and what date. Because I need to establish that in my mind clearly. Where is your...
I will tell you this now. There is no way in the world...
Were you born in Suriname?
No, man. I was born in the Amsterdam Hospital. The building is not there now, but the hospital was there when I was born, man. I was born in Region 6, the Amsterdam Public Hospital, as a child to Solomon and Edith, my father, and my mother. I have not relinquished my Guyanese status. Basil Williams, as a lawyer, man, he put Mark Bentkop in jail. Does that mean he's a smart lawyer because he's Attorney General? The man stands in Parliament and he speaks as if he's a stand-up comedian. That is Basil Williams. And to that young friend, a wonderful female voice I heard, I am not disrespectful to men when I speak of a man who is evil, who is wicked. Why do you think they call Moses Nagamutu the rubber stamp? That is what he is. And I would hate to want to call him Honorable Prime Minister. There's nothing honorable about that man. I've been in and out of his life before and after Parliament, his prime ministerial portfolio. So I'm not being disrespectful to men. I'm individualizing here. Basil Williams, he said, I'm persona non grata. Well, at what level do you draw the line? On December 14, 2018, I voted for a $300.7 billion budget. Still 33-32. They want to take majority on that? Cancel the budget then. It wasn't passed. What about the ones before? What about all the laws? The juvenile justice bill that says a child at 14 years is not criminally and cannot be criminally liable. That is something I didn't want to pass, but I voted for it. Where will they draw the line? And the same Basil Williams will know that my good friend, Mr. Carl Greenidge and Rupert Rupnarain, they hold foreign passports. And so too does Nicolette Henry. What are they talking about and where will they draw the line? And there are others. There are many others.
We have a very... we call it peaking of our audience, but at the same time, we want to leave it on that high note. Like everything else, this program will be coming to an end very shortly. I will ask both of you if you can give a 2-minute closing. And before you do that, I just want to say that the member, Rickford Burke, had planned to join us, but for some reason, his church activity and his 7 days background prevents him from joining us now. I just got a text on that. Mr. Charan, Mr. Says, would you like to give us a 2-minute closing and so to sum up where we're going and what you plan to do next?
Right. I applaud Guyana because Guyana has now put itself in the history books of the world as one of the few countries that has been able to put democracy to the test at this point in time. Whether the democracy will hold is a different issue. But I am appealing to the senior politicians. And so far, to be honest, they have lived up to that, to act maturely. Guyana is not yours to be, it's not in your transport. It doesn't belong to you exclusively. It belongs to the 750,000 people inside Guyana and the other 800,000 people outside of Guyana. It is our country. So do not operate like if you have exclusive transport over Guyana. So I'm imploring the politicians to be mature. And I want to close with what the bishop of the Roman Catholic Bishop of Georgetown said. And he said that he appeals to the leaders to continue to extend the hand to each other and grasp this opportunity that this no confidence motion has presented to us to help reshape a Guyana where we all can feel included. Because I did not feel included in the Guyana that I saw over the last 3 years. Even though I advocated and supported Mr. Granger in 2015, I did not feel included. And I'm telling you, because when you have a country where 16 of the 17 permanent secretaries are closely associated to the ruling party, then you have a problem, because then they're ruling for themselves. And maybe Walter Lawrence was quite apt in stating what they were doing. But getting to the crux of the point, we got to all take the high road. Guyana's had enough of low roading, where everybody's getting at each other and fighting each other. And where did it take us? Where, compared to Guyana started with Singapore in the 60s, look where Singapore is, look where Guyana is. Those people are working together. We are working against each other. We got to change the way we do things. So my appeal to the politicians in particular and civil society, step up, do your work, help Guyana reshape itself. That's what I want to say.
Well, thank you, sir. And Mr. Charrandas?
Thanks, Sid. My friends, let me say this generally. First of all, I am Guyanese. I would safely say that I'm at least 90% Guyanese because I still hold a Canadian passport. They allow dual citizenship, but I've established myself as a migrant since 98. Since 1998. Whatever the courts will decide, we have to abide by it. And they're not going to remove Charrandas alone. Furthermore, I'm already out of parliament, so they don't have to worry about removing me. That's one of the reasons why you filed to strike out the action, because that's one of the things they're asking for. Anyways, I will appeal to Guyanese. My move was not to go across the fence, as you say, or across the floor, or support the PPP. It was not because PPP paid me money. As I said, Jagdev often would say hi, and I will return the same. We don't stand up and I've never stood up in front of a man and have a conversation. Never. Because we're not friends. I spoke to other members. Now, all I'm saying, this is not about being Indian. Let it not be a race thing. My law practice, I do cases for women who go to court for child support for their children against their husbands or their child. I do not take Chinese, whatever. I do not charge them for that because that is the child's money that they would have to take to pay me. I will do that. I will continue to do that. I don't know that anybody who knows me will say I'm racial. My best friend is a man named Trevor Williams. And despite all of this, Trevor Williams is a lawyer. We studied in Trinidad together. He is working also for NIS. I call him Twill. Wonderful friend. David Hermanstein, who is the head for the GRA Enforcement Agency, will tell you, and he will tell you, his sister Wendy Hermanstein, who is on the publication committee with Nagamutu. We went to Montreal, to Edmonton together. They stayed at my place and my mother's place in Toronto here. Do I care who is black, blue, green, or yellow? That is not my concern. We are Guyanese. And again, if you're doing what is not fair to the Guyanese, when the sugar workers were there, they're not all East Indians, I agree. A majority would have been East Indians. But a lot of black guys are inside there too. I didn't stop to think who is black and who is green. I simply said that what this government has done to the sugar workers in particular was unfair. We don't have unemployment benefits. We don't have anything to fall back onto. These people don't have land. And so they were left penniless, breadless, no food to put on the table. How do you want these people to live? And then you enjoyed living on an additional 50% increase in salary. For attending Parliament last year, from January to May, we had 5 sessions only. That's how hard they work, or we work as parliamentarians. These are things that finally got to me, and at that stage, I decided nothing will stop me from trying my best. My one promise in my campaign, I worked to remove the PPP because what I saw, I didn't like. And I said I will do the same thing to remove whichever government sits in office if they do not do what is going to benefit the people. So if you want to take it, during my campaign in 2015, that decision was taken since then to work to remove the government if it is not working in favor of the people. That's why I work to remove the PPP.
Well, on that
and that's why I'm also saying I will not be sitting on their platform. I will not be campaigning with them. I'm not saying that, I'm not going to say anything bad about anybody or anything good about anybody. I am not campaigning there. I may form a new party for all you know. But my brothers and sisters, all I'm saying, do not be blinded by any call against race. This is a racial thing. It is not. It is not. And if I pick a fight with an individual, it is that individual alone, not the entire racial classification, if it's black or if it's a man or a woman, as the case might be.
Well,
I do not pick fights with a mob.
Mr. Chairman, I must say thank you very much. And in true, we call openness fashion, we can do something slightly different. I'm going to ask two members of the audience to give a 1 minute closing statement. Dr. Ramayana, you earn the right to have one of those two people. 1 minute, please.
Let me say that listening to both our guests, I want to deal directly. I am on the ground. And Charrandas did not surprise me that he said he's not going to campaign for the PPP. I give them critical support for the local government elections, and they came out victorious in Region 5 and 6 because of all the television programs that I did and the groundwork. But looking at the AFC, what they have done, they did an injustice to the people of Guyana. I spent millions of dollars to fight both parties, and Moses and Kemraj in particular, that we will never form a coalition because of the records of both parties, the two major parties. We were doing very well 2011. And that is the first time in the history of Guyana we had what we call a single plurality government. And that was working so well. But Moses and Kemraj, they had the agenda, which I cannot blame myself, I couldn't see through. But I was here when they already had in mind to form the coalition. So I went back the Thursday, and the Saturday was the meeting. I refused because I knew then, and it is past today, that Moses had wanted to become somebody before he left, and Kemraj. So the agenda was they went in a different island to form the coalition. So when I went back, I was the only one who stood up to them that this is not what was discussed for 3 years on television, that you will never join hand with the PNC or the PPP. And today, I don't know where my position is, but I don't need a position. I'm independent, just like Charrandas. But for what is happening to the sugar industry, I believe I will give them critical support, the PPP. What I do not believe is I was only a member of Ravidev and the AFC. I was never a member of the PPP or any other party too. So with this in mind, and with the double pass, the dual citizenship, I was there. I'm a citizen here since 1975. And we have to acknowledge that 26 people right now in Parliament are double citizenship they hold. So I don't know what these people are coming to tell the outside world as if we are stupid. But we have to voice over here very strongly to all the people for a fair and free election in Guyana.
Well, thank you again very much, sir. Okay. You did a very good job. Thank you. Now we will ask Dr. Dan Paul for 30 seconds version because Ramaya took out his minute.
Okay, good afternoon again. So here's the thing, quickly. You know, I write for the newspaper. I write an article, 2 articles every week for the West Indian. I'm going to write up about this. Here's the thing. We are members of the diaspora. You know that. Meeting people, Guyanese abroad. When the politicians come from Guyana here, they're going to come, cap in hand, begging for money. Hold them accountable. Hold all these politicians from Guyana, which party, doesn't matter which party, hold them accountable. Meaning, tell them, as Mr. Charrandas said and says, we're not playing the race game in Guyana. Time for racial division in Guyana, gone. We have to have a new kind of politics in the country. And this thing that Mr. Charrandas has done could be a blessing in disguise for a new kind of politics, because you're hearing for yourself that the numbers might not be there. There might be a plurality of the votes. Now, if we are very serious about the way we want our country to go to make progress, we will start to discuss things like, well, the party that has the most votes perhaps will have the presidency. The party that has the runner-up votes probably will have the prime ministership in the future. And in that case, it means we are all going to have to work together to build the country. Guyana is not only about Indo-Guyanese, Afro-Guyanese. We didn't even talk about the Amerindians, who were the first Guyanese. And the Chinese and the Portuguese, they're all there. And the mixed race, everybody's there. Guyana belongs to all of us. We all have a stake in the country. We must all work for peace, unity, and progress, and join hands together and build our beautiful country.
Well, thank you very much, sir. Now, in a closing remark, I just want to make a quick comment in that the Department of Planning here in New York City had issued a report about the newest New Yorker. And you'll be surprised to know that report ranked Guyanese the 5th largest group in New York City, and in Queens, we are ranked number 2. Now, that is very significant, and in terms of the Guyanese diaspora, I want you to know that children that are born here in the United States of Guyanese parentage also have a right to call themselves Guyanese, because Guyana's constitution allows, once you have a parent of Guyanese origin, for you to be qualified as a Guyanese. So our numbers, Salim, is significantly higher than 850. We are probably in excess of 1 million in New York, in the United States, and the diaspora as a whole, we are probably in excess of 2 million people. So in closing, I would like to say thank you very much for all the participants to do this, and not to forget Globespan Technology for actually providing the technology. And we'd like to thank Mr. Nohar Singh for the commitment he made to make this a reality. We will be doing this again in the near future, so watch out, and we'd like you to share the word so that we can continue bringing this information to the community and the diaspora as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.